You're the boss. Am I allowed to butt in on your conversation there? Why you wait till the last minute on everything he does? His last minute. And he wants answers now.
We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Roll call. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Amobian.
God, thank you that you are a God of mercy, and thank you, God, that you withhold from us some things that actually we deserve. And by your grace, you bestow on us that which we do not deserve. We thank you for that. God, give us hearts of humility. God, give us hearts that would say, yes, we are our brother's keeper. Thank you for the place that you call each and every one of us to. Pray your name.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes have been provided. Are there any corrections or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on the minutes. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Again, roll call on the consent agenda. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky.
This evening we do have 3 public hearings. So I'm going to ask if there's anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak on any of our 3 public hearings, 1204 Coral Drive, 1170 Diagonal Road, or North Case Avenue. If you'll please stand at this time. I'm going to also ask if there's anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak during our public comment period. And you have filled out a written request if you will also stand at this time so that all of you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
If you plan to give testimony during the public hearing tonight or plan to speak during public comment, please stand, raise your right hand, and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, legal notice. Notice hereby given it, the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 10th, 2020, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, on an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to to establish a child daycare business center at 1204 Coral Drive.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Jesmyn A. Robbins is requesting permission to establish a child daycare business center at this location. Proposed daycare business center, also known as the Robbins Nest, will be located on the ground floor and basement of the two-story, 1,900 square foot colonial house. The facility would provide services and activities for up to 12 children ranging from 6 weeks to 12 years of age. Daycare would be operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The corner lot property contains an enclosed rear yard. Petitioner stated that she has operated a Type B for 6 or less children daycare from Coral Drive since December of 2014. The proposed daycare business center should not significantly raise the level of activity on this property nor have a detrimental effect on nearby homes. Providing quality daycare service is beneficial to the entire city. As such, planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Speak in favor. You may approach the podium. Please give us your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Jesmyn A. Robbins. I reside at 1204 Coral Drive, Akron, Ohio. I thank you all for your time this evening. I just basically want to come before you to explain a little bit about what I do and why I do it. I have been operating for 5 years, and I also am a part owner for 2 facilities, but my home daycare is something that is near and important to me. Prior to being married, I was a single mother, and I worked from 4:30 at night till 12:30 a.m. And so it was a hard transition for my children to go from being at school all day to go to another facility type. You know, the home setting was more comfortable for them, and it allowed them to thrive emotionally. So I find that for some parents, even children that have behavioral problems, it's because they are lacking a certain piece that I feel I am able to give to them. So that is a part of why I do what I do. And I thank you for your time. I'm here to answer any questions or concerns that anyone may have.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak against? Anyone who wishes to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Excuse me. Kamer? Swirsky? Baylor? Samples?
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Robbins was here this afternoon during the public hearing at that time, available to answer questions, and has agreed to the 5 conditions that the planning department recommended. The planning department is in favor, and I know the council representative, Mr. Malik, had met with her and feels very comfortable with this proposed conditional use, so we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call and final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay. Legal notice number 2. Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 10th, 2020, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in Akron City Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a child daycare business at 1170 Diagonal Road.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Deborah Okanowo is requesting permission to establish a child daycare business center at this location. Proposed daycare business center, known as Little Royals Palace, would mainly be located on the ground floor of the 2-story, 1,500 square foot colonial house. The facility would provide services and activities for up to 12 children at a time, ranging from infants to 12 years of age. Daycare would be operated Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. There will be no overnight stays. The property contains a rear yard outdoor play area, and the backyard is fenced. Petitioner stated that she currently operates a Type B daycare at this location. The proposed use should not be, and that's for 6 children or less. Proposed use should not be intrusive to the neighborhood as the outdoor play area is fenced and the majority of the activities are conducted indoors. Providing quality daycare services is beneficial to the entire city. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here wishing to speak against? Anyone wishing to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close our public comment period, our public hearing. And Councilman Fusco, what's your pleasure?
Yes, I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer. Swirsky. Baylor. Samples.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is basically the same explanation. There is 5 conditions that the petitioner has agreed to comply with. The Planning Department has recommended approval along with the Commission, as well as the Ward Council Representative, Council President Somerville. So we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay. Public hearing number 3. Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 10th, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in City Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to construct a discount store on the south side of North Case Avenue across from Bank Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Franklin Land Associates, LLC, proposed to construct a discount store on this property. Since the proposed discount store is within 2,500 feet of another, conditional use is required. The one-story building would measure 70 feet by 130 feet for 9,100 square feet of area. Building materials would consist of split-face block along the front entrance and a portion of the west side of the building. The remainder of the building would comprise of vertical pre-finished metal wall panels. Planning staff is not supportive of this proposal because the proposed location is within 2,500 feet of the Family Dollar at 19 North Arlington Street. Akron City Council recently passed legislation which prohibits new discount stores if they're within 2,500 feet of an existing discount store. A discount store is defined by the City of Akron zoning code as a store that sells a variety of inexpensive items, all or substantially all of which are priced $5 or less, excluding a grocery store. This proposed store is roughly 1,400 feet from the 19 North Arlington Street store. The purpose of this distance of this buffer was to prevent the oversaturation and concentration of such discount stores in neighborhoods within the city, which could result in limited availability of land for a healthy mix of retail uses and the potential for vacancies. There are numerous locations that the petitioner could locate a discount store in accordance with zoning code regulations. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend disapproval.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance?
Hello, my name is Logan Trombley. I'm the attorney for the property owners for this project here. I'm from the law office of Warner Mendenhall. Our address is 190 North Union Street, Akron, Ohio. I do have a couple maps here that I would like to distribute if somebody could help me out. I may be one short. If so, I apologize. So just, I wanted to be able just to give a Google Map overview of the property that we're talking about. If you look at it with the map of it's a kind of like a blue point, It's currently a vacant lot right now. It's been vacant for the last 10, 20 years. There hasn't been much use for it at all. The property owners have done a lot of work of consolidating the property under one ownership so that it can be developed. There's been multiple chances previous where they've tried to and failed. And so this is one of the latest developments in terms of people coming to actually offer to develop this property. So the actual, it's a Dollar General that would be put in. We think that this would be an actual benefit to the community in that it would be a bellwether retail location. If you look in that area, it's mostly light industrial. There really isn't any retail in that space, so it wouldn't be competing with any other retail uses in that exact area. Also, that area is a topographical, it's kind of hilly, and so it's kind of its own area. There's a rail line, there's a river, kind of making it its own separate area that makes it a little bit difficult to walk to. And so the other area, so it would be able to serve the local businesses and local neighborhood. The council has recently passed this ordinance that has done 2,500 feet between these discount stores. I think that, the objective behind that is to prevent these food deserts. In this area, you'll see that there's 2 grocery stores that service this area. The closest one is a Dave's Market. It's about 3,100 feet away. There's another one in Acme, a couple miles down the road. So this area actually is served by grocery stores, and it has been served for a long time. There is another Family Dollar within a close vicinity of it, and that's the issue of why a conditional use is required. Just looking, it's at the other side of the hill. It's a little difficult for people to get to it in terms of the people who are walking. This is also along a bus route too. So there's a little bit of discontinuity in terms of the neighborhoods, how they're set up, and I don't think it would be necessarily competing with each other, these 2 uses. So in terms of the actual intent behind the ordinance, I don't think it would be applicable in this situation because of the way that the topography is set up and that this would be a bellwether property that could bring in future retail uses. One last comment I would like to make just on the legality of the ordinance itself. The way that it's currently written does seem to be legally suspect on a constitutional basis. Zoning ordinances are not supposed to be used for the regulation of economic supply and demand. So what it's trying to do is regulate competition and prevent these discount stores from going in the way it's currently tailored. If it was really just trying to do prevent the food desert and protect grocery stores, then it makes more sense to be tailored towards the grocery stores within the distance of that. It's not within 2,500 feet of the Dave's Market. It's with 2,500 feet of a different grocery store. So I think that in terms of the objectives that the council is trying to achieve here, it's just not necessarily applicable here, and that we ask for a conditional use. And the property owners are here, and they would love to answer questions, or you can ask me questions if any arise.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance?
Good evening. Clark Grable, one of the property owners of the property. The property is zoned property for this type of use, from my understanding, and we have had people inquire about the use of the property, and nothing's ever turned up in the last 10, 15 years since I've been involved in it. It's definitely in need of improvement in the neighborhood. I think that any type of new construction, especially a convenience store, which would, with the traffic pattern in that area at Case Avenue and Newton and the surrounding streets, would be a benefit. And again, I don't believe that it would be in competition with any grocery store, like just maybe another Family Dollar. This would be a Dollar General. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Velvet Grable, and I reside at 165 North Case Avenue, Akron, Ohio. I want to thank you for taking this into consideration, first and foremost. And the only real point that I want to bring up regarding this particular location is that Case Avenue has become a thoroughfare. It's a means of allowing traffic to get from Talmadge Circle and 91 down Eastland and Newton across Case over to Market Street. From that area of, I guess they call that 6 Points or 6 Corners up there at Britton and Eastwood and Eastland, and we have a CVS and a little convenience store and a Walgreens, and as you come down Eastland, there's absolutely nothing. When you hit Case Avenue, there's nothing. You cross over Case and over to Arlington, and there's nothing. If you would turn right or left on Market Street, now that we have the East End development, there really is nothing there until you go beyond under 76, past out beyond the Mercedes dealer. And if you turn right and you go towards downtown, the closest thing that you have would be the Circle K. People that are traveling this area, they're doing it for convenience, for an alternate route. And there's just nowhere to stop and pick up anything of a necessity that you might need on the way. I would like to see some retail in the area. It would be beneficial to the small businesses that are there. And I hope that you grant this conditional use for this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for me?
Not at this time. Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against? Anyone here who wishes to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item. Kamer? Aye. Swirsky? Aye. Baylor? Samples?
This item will be referred. Councilman Fusco, what's your pleasure on the rest of the agenda?
Yes, the request of the committee is for time on 4 and 5. I think, yes. The report of the committee on item number 6, there is a substitute. I'd like the president to read in.
Substitute offered as an amendment. It's Resolution 2020 adopting the 2020 Capital Investment and Community Development Program, legally referred to as the Capital Investment Budget, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. This represents the capital budget. This particular piece here is what was discussed in committee today. This is the budget adjustment. Whenever the budget is prepared, it's like late fall, early winter, December, November. That's whenever it's prepared. Well, obviously now we're into February, so there's adjustments that are made. Just to highlight some of those adjustments, increasing funding for the Rubber City Heritage Trail, as well as the Smith Road traffic study. Also, changing some of the funding pieces on the utility side represents the amendment piece of this legislation. However, overall, the overall budget is over $322 million. Spent two weeks going line by line over this capital budget, the 2020 capital budget. We went line by line with the administration discussing these issues. And I'd like to remind council that every one of these particular issues, we will see legislation. And we will be addressing this a second time. And we will be diving into these type of issues even further later on. We also, it's important to note that in terms of housing, CDBG funding, so on and so forth, there's some areas of our city, the basis for CDBG from the federal government is the basis for that is zip code. In some zip codes, the income levels are too high. And those are 44312 and 44313. Ward 6 and Ward 8 have never received any community development block grant funding. So that's important to note as well. Approximately 55% of the overall budget represents water and sewer. 5% public facilities. Parks and recreation is 2% of this capital budget. Transportation is 14%. Also appreciate the fact that the administration continues to give us a breakdown and it's on the website every year in terms of the expenditure of the Issue 4 funds and exactly where those are going. And that's important to note, I think. In terms of the police department, we're spending over $1 million on 28 outdated and failing police vehicles. In terms of the fire side, over $1 million with regards to replacing fire engines 2 and 4, as well as the financing is being put together relative to fire stations 2 and 4. And also, the good news on the street side and resurfacing, we will be doing an additional 37 lane miles. And also, if you factor in partnering with the state of Ohio, the total overall resurfacing project will be about 60 miles altogether total. So this obviously is not the budget that we've seen in the past years with regards to taking into consideration all the cuts. However, though, there's a lot going on here in Akron, and I appreciate council's time with regards to reviewing this in detail, and as well as the planning department and all the work that they put forward to educate us on this capital budget. The committee requests passage this evening with suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage: Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky.
Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate what our chairman shared about the capital budget, but you know, we've had discussion about what metrics we use to make sure that equity is used when we exercise this budget. I mean, just the one thing that he shared about wards 8 and 12, I think we need to look into that and see if there are some pockets that may need some help. That's a part of the whole equity piece. You know, I've raised concerns about the park and rec budget. As far as the soccer fields, there's a duplicity of things that fall in that area as far as when we talk about equity. So, you know, we talk about these things, but we don't have metrics by which to measure. And I'm just going to use this as an example. When another budget came before us, and we said we were going to look at it before, and that was when we were dealing with the schools. It was actually Ellett High School. There was an allotment for Ellett that was in there, but I understood that East High School, and it hurts me to say this, the best football program in the city, they don't have a locker room for their football team. The most storied program, Garfield High School, is now regulated to 50 yards to practice for high school, varsity, JV, and potentially middle school team. We could have rectified those situations, and then Booker was still at loss. We could have rectified those situations if we would have had equitable metrics to look at how we exercise our budget. So with $350 million, there's several things that we need to look at. One, to make sure that we're investing equitably. Equitably is different than equally in our wards. And then the other thing is to make sure with that budget that we are making sure that residents who want to participate in economic opportunities have that opportunity. But if we don't set guidelines and measures by what to do that, we will miss the boat like we did when it came to not looking at the school budget. And now we have a high school football team that doesn't have a locker room, another high school football team that has less than 50 yards, and the best track program in the city that doesn't have a track. This is our opportunity to look at things properly. So I just want to make sure that this is going to come back before any of this comes back before us, that we have metrics that we use to make sure that we're doing the right type of investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, just simply, it's important to note, and I have spoke to both Mr. Malik and Mr. McKittrick reference, there is within these zip codes pockets of neighborhoods that really would qualify based on that alone, based on that particular neighborhood. However, though, due to the funding formula from the federal government and recall talking to Congress Representative Mr. Ryan about this, about how we need, it would help the entire neighborhood, but we've got pockets in there where, for a myriad of reasons, that is declining. And so we'll keep on looking at that and try to find creative ways. But with that, I'd like to go into the next item.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The report of the committee on item number 6 is adverse.
Item number 7?
Item number 7, I apologize, yes. Item number 7 is adverse.
Okay.
Report of the committee.
The committee's report is adverse. All in favor? Did you want to have some comments, additional comments?
Yeah, I think it just to be
Sure.
appropriate. Yes, thank you. This public hearing was last year in 2019. However, the petitioners did come in last week and had a discussion with council in terms of this proposal itself. It's important to note that any billboard in the city of Akron would require a conditional use. And currently, our ordinances speak to 50 foot is typically the height. However, though, many years ago, along the expressways, as we're all aware, this council had passed some conditional uses. Those particular, the height of those is 100 feet, okay? And it's appropriate to take into consideration the aesthetics, so on and so forth. But this particular one here, in terms of the aesthetics, it would be 205 feet, well beyond anything we've ever dealt with in the or approved in the past. And also, it's important whenever noting aesthetics that extremely close to here would be the Freedom Trail as well as the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. And so that's of other consideration. So based on all that, the report of the committee is adverse.
Thank you. The committee's report is adverse. All in favor of the adverse report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I heard one abstention. We're going to do a roll call.
Okay. Roll call on the adverse report. Baylor. Connor. Freeman. Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo. McKittrick. Malik. Neal. Pardon me? Movian. Samples. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
Okay, as far as the abstention, there was 10 votes for the abstention, 2 nays or noes, and 1, what'd you do?
And one abstention.
Okay. So it's 10 to 2 with 1 abstention.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Fusco?
Time on the balance, thank you.
Time will be granted. We'll now move into our new legislation.
One second, please.
Rules.
Okay, item number 1, offered by Mayor Horrigan. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title III, Chapter 38, unlawful discrimination of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This piece of legislation would increase the number of commissioners from 5 to 7, and with that, we ask for its passage.
The rules have been suspended, and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 2, offered by Mayor Horrigan, a resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Horrigan of Esther Thomas, Latanda Belcher, Nancy Holland as members of the Akron Civil Rights Commission and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This resolution would place 3 individuals upon the applying to the piece of legislation we just passed. This would be 3 members. This would bring us to a total of 7.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, Kittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 2A, offered by Mayor Horrigan. Ordinance approving the agreement between the Akron Firefighters Association Local 330 Bargaining Unit and the City of Akron regarding adjustments in employee compensation, all in furtherance of the mayor's commitment to attract and retain qualified employees and provide appropriate wage increases to commensurate with improved employee productivity and efficiency and changes in the cost of living while economically utilizing taxpayer dollars to provide vital quality services to the citizens of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This ordinance would approve the agreement between Akron Firefighters Local 330 and the City of Akron. With that, we pass for its passage.
The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Item 2B, offered by Mayor Horrigan. Ordinance amending and or supplementing ordinance number 17, 2016, approving the agreements between the Akron Firefighters Association, Local 330 Bargaining Unit, and the City of Akron regarding the changes in health care benefits, authorizing the Director of Finance to fund these benefits, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Our previous ordinance was directed towards the agreement between the Local 330 and the city regarding salaries. This would have to do with health benefits, and with that, we ask for its passage.
The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 3 we've already dealt with. Move on to number 4, offered by Fusco and Samples. It's an ordinance accepting a vacation plat for Ewing Court west of Adolph Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco and Samples, ordinance accepting a vacation plat for Arch Street and a portion of Upson Street west of North Adams Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the downtown area redevelopment area to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes, and deposit those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code sections 5709.41 to 5709.43 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Sample. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into an agreement with the Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority in order to perform and/or manage certain environmental reviews and declare an emergency.
Councilperson Samples.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Samples, the resolution declaring it necessary to improve Ascot Parkway between the termini of State Road and the cul-de-sac by paving, grading, constructing, reconstructing curbs and driveway approaches, and installing roof drain pipes, repealing resolution number 11, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
Councilperson Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
These are necessary improvements to the, as Mr. Keefe said, Ascot Parkway between termini of State Road and the cul-de-sac, and we're asking for its passage.
The rules have been suspended, and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 9, offered by Samples, resolution declaring it necessary to improve 4th Street between the termini of Maryland Avenue and Kenmore Boulevard by paving, grading, constructing, and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks, and driveway approaches, installing roof drain pipes, and planting trees, and declaring an emergency.
Councilperson Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Again, these are more necessary improvements to 4th Street between the termini of Maryland Avenue and Kenmore Boulevard.
The rules have been suspended, and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call on final passage. Baylor, Connor, Freeman, Fusco, Kamer, Lombardo, McKittrick, Malik, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 10, offered by Swirsky, ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the planting of trees in connection with the Akron Waterways Renewed Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Swirsky.
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with Gray Shift for the use of Gray Key online software bundle for up to 3 years and declare an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is to place this item on the consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. When you hear your name, I'm going to ask that you please approach the podium. Please give us your name and your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum may be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. Judy Hill.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to come before this body. The last time I was here was the installation of the new members. And again, I want to say congratulations to the service that you are providing to this community. I come before you today, unfortunately, because I have a concern. In 2015, I was asked to serve on a committee, and it was called the Use of Force Policy Review Committee for the Akron Police Department. The committee was made up of myself, clergy, citizens, attorneys, council members, police officers, prosecutors from the prosecutor's department. They all served together, and our goal was to create a body-worn camera video usage policy or procedure. We spent many, many hours here in this building working, I'm sorry, not in this building, in the police department. I'm talking about researching. As a matter of fact, I brought some of my folders. I still have somebody's book, but I'll get it back to them. Researching what other cities were doing and how we should be looking at the body cameras, utilizing them, and then releasing information appropriately to the community. I'm disturbed to find out that, again, on Friday, February 7th, body-worn camera video was released to the media, even though this is still an ongoing investigation, unless it's no longer an investigation and I'm not aware of it. It was in our records, in our meetings, in the procedures that we said any video usage was not to be provided to the media or anyone. It should not be released until the investigation is finished. Now, I understand that there are times that things have to be done in a different order, but if we're not going to follow our procedures, then why have them? That is a concern not just by me, but some other members on the committee. Because I was the one who recruited several people on that committee, they're asking me, I thought we decided, and we decided as a committee. We spent a great deal of time discussing and talking about when the need for public understanding comes before the legal ramifications. And in this instance, I did not understand, and I guess I'd like clarification, because the city and the police department held a press conference, and they released a redacted video, and in that video it had subtitles. That was not the full video. If we're going to start releasing them, could we release the whole thing? And if there's going to be a change, could we talk to and at least let the public know that there's been a change in the procedures? And so I wanted to voice my concern because I think it's important to the well-being and understanding and respect of our police department, and as we all try to work together to make our city the best place it could be. One of the things that as we worked together, we kept referring to, we wanted to be open,
We'll give her a few moments.
transparent, and accountable. I would hope we would continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hill. Carol Coleman Crane.
Good evening, council members. I'm Carol Coleman Crane. I own Team Towing and Service at 645 Carroll Street. And I'm here tonight because I would like to be included in the rotation for the Akron Police Department to provide towing for our city of Akron. I've met with the planning department in 2015, the fall of 2015. I was approved, my business was approved in early spring of 2016. I've met with safety committee several times after that, and several of our legal departments here, and just got some direction on some certain areas that I needed to work on, certain things that like to be perfected, which I have done so. And we currently provide the majority of the towing for Akron City AAA. About 40% of what their membership is, which is 100,000 members in Summit County, which is pretty good. And we provide towing for the post office as well as Ohio Highway Patrol and several different garages. We're towing about 2,500 calls a month, which is pretty good. I have been asking for and asking tonight for a fair and equitable distribution of the districts. Last week I provided the map that I will show you again tonight with the districts in Akron that are sectioned off into seven different areas. As I said to you before, and those of you that are new, there are 2 of these districts that are being serviced by just one towing company, meaning one towing company, 2 different towing companies are servicing 2 different areas. It's not fair. And it's not even right. You know, I've been coming down here for quite a while, and I've been approved for several years, and I'm asking for a fair and equitable distribution of those districts to include if the Ohio Revised Code has certain requirements and you meet those requirements, there needs to be there hasn't been a change in over 30 years, and there's no contracts, there's no written agreements, there's nothing binding you to the current structure. So I'm asking for inclusion. Brian from Kinney's is here as well tonight. He's been back and forth as well, and we've spoken before the body for quite a while now, and asking that you give that consideration. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Crane. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove, 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, Ohio. And I just have this is from the Akron Beacon Journal. It says Friday, May the 31st, 2019. And it says new loans target for small business. Well, in essence, Akron has a community development financial institution, and it's set up to facilitate in the minority, in the communities where the wealth, it operates in the low wealth neighborhoods. And the gist of this is to have venture capital, and the mission is putting before shareholders and reinvesting profits for good of public and not investors. So in essence, this is to uplift the communities that has not been serviced. And my thing is with this council is this. This would be a better city if everyone is included. I think the minority community has been left behind. And so what I'm asking this body is to consider looking into all the forms that you can do to help uplift our community. I mean, as Mr. Neal pointed out a week or so ago, everyone in here knows, or should know. I'm not counting the new people on council, but we have been denied opportunity. And it's up to this body to really consider how they're going to uplift us. I mean, there's no reason in this city at this point in time where so many people is being left behind as far as economic opportunity. I mean, the funding is here to do it. But the problem is allocating the funding. I mean, we the people in our community, we cannot allocate the funding. This body has to do it. And my problem is this. With my project alone, I've been coming down here to advance my project. In Ward 3, 25 jobs. And it's an emergency in our community. We need help from this body. I mean, if the law department knows, I mean, the economic development department knows because they allocate the funding. And if you add up how much money have they put in our communities in 25 years, 30 years, it's shameful. So I'm just asking to invest in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. Fatima Ritta.
Hi, I'm Fatima Rita, 967 Concord Avenue. I am a landlord, and there are many ways to succeed in business and make everybody happy and grow the economy. And I believe one of the ways that would benefit everybody is if the city would change the way they're doing the water and sewer billing. I think it would be nice if you could say collect a $200 deposit, and if the tenant doesn't pay the first month's bill, then they have to pay it all by the next month or get shut off. And sometimes you have to ask for what you want, because if you only ask for a little bit of money to continue to keep the water on, they're only going to pay a little bit. But if you ask for more, I'll bet you more than half the time, if not most of the time, they are going to pay for it. And here's the benefit. If the tenants pay the water bill and you don't make me responsible for some $1,000 bill they don't pay, that's $1,000 in my pocket that I can improve my house. I can go out to the restaurants, have fun, make the restaurants richer because I'm spending my money there, go to the stores and buy stuff at Home Depot or Menards or whatever places, and everybody's benefiting. And then I also wanted to thank the city too. You have lead abatement programs, and a few years ago I did one on my house on Palmetto, and just recently I had a woman that has two sets of twins, 2 years old and 4 years old. She was with the Battered Women's Shelter and she wanted to rent my house on Palmetto. And I said, well, it's been lead abated. And, of course, I couldn't find my paperwork. I called downstairs this morning, and son of a gun, if they didn't leave it sitting there for me to pick it up, the door was open, they said, just go in and pick it up, and I picked it right up and brought it with me today here. So here we have a great program that the city helped get the house good at less cost for me. I'm going to rent to a woman that needs a place, and an organization's going to help her, and she does have a job. And if we can just get the water department to make people pay more instead of just a little bit to keep the water on, everybody's going to benefit, because you have to ask for what you want. And if you do that, people will learn how to be, and they will learn that they must pay their bills. And if you get the bill too high, at some point they can't pay, they're just going to move, because they'd rather go someplace else. And then also, if they move and didn't pay their bill, they should not be allowed to get the water bill on until they pay the old bill. So those are my ideas. If anybody wants to talk to me, feel free to talk to me. My phone number is 330-958-4900. I'm also a member of the Akron Canton Real Estate Group, and we have an Ohio group that we just had like a conversation today that they're proposing some different ideas on how to get the water bill so that it doesn't get so far behind and tenants become responsible and know they have to pay it.
Thank you, Fatima, for sharing. We will now close our public comment period and move into our committee assignments. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Public Service, Councilperson Samples. Rules, Councilman Freeman. Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky.
2:30.
Is there anything else coming before council? Councilman Freeman?
I failed to recognize that one of our new members of the Civil Rights Commission is here this evening. If you would please stand. And she'll be serving. We heard kind of her testimony in life, the Esther Thomas, correct? First time that we've met today. But I wanted to thank her for serving, being with us this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to state, Ms. Fatima reminded me, last week I had the opportunity to sit in Judge Odom's council with members from the Akron Canton Real Estate Investment Association, and they talked about the eviction changes that were taking place. And I want to encourage this body to reach out to have them come in and speak with us. It was a very productive meeting that Judge Odom held. Again, I just want us to think, this is a collective body that cares for half of the residents within our city. And they exercise best practices. And so just as that meeting was productive, I'm sure everybody's seen the articles in the Beacon Journal. I think it would be good for this body to work with them to help us create better legislation to improve all of our communities. Then the other thing is, I want to thank Mr. Ashley for providing this. I think every member from council got one of these. I ask that you go through it and take a look at the parks and recs inside your ward, and make sure that the projected improvements are accurate. A lot of our pocket parks have had recreational items pulled from them because it was outdated and whatnot. And when you look at your parks, don't just look at the recreational, also look at the fencing, so that when we go to allocate money to improve our parks, we don't forget our small neighborhood parks. So I ask that you take a look at that. Thank you.
Councilman Fusco?
Wasn't sure if you had, planning and economic development is meeting at 1.
Yes, I'm sorry, did I skip you? I'm
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else coming before this body? We do have a motion to adjourn, just so that we do know on Monday is a holiday, so we won't be in session on next Monday. We have a motion for adjournment. No objections. We're adjourned.